Hello everyone, my name is Olivia and welcome to another episode of Books and Brews, a series where I talk to you about some of the most recent books that I read while drinking a cup of coffee. And I am so glad to tell you that this video is being sponsored by Nguyen Coffee Supply, who is providing me with the coffee that I am drinking in this episode. Nguyen Coffee Supply is a Vietnamese coffee company that brings organic coffee from Vietnam to Brooklyn, New York, where they roast their coffee. They are founded by a first-generation Vietnamese American woman and daughter of refugees. And what I love most is that their coffee is free of any artificial flavoring or ingredients and is ethically sourced. Nguyen offers 3 different varieties of their coffee. Moxie, which is their sweet and fruity brew made of Arabica beans, Loyalty, which is a blend of their Arabica beans and Robusta beans, and True Grit, which is their strongest coffee that has 2 times more caffeine than Moxie. Nguyen also has a subscription service where you can order your coffee, whether it be whole or ground beans, which blend you love most, how many bags you want per month, and then your coffee will be delivered straight to your door for only around $20 per shipment. To make their coffee, I am using their Fiend filter, which is a sustainable way of brewing your coffee because you don't have to use a coffee filter each time you use it. Instead, you simply put it over your cup of choice, scoop your Nguyen coffee into your Fiend, pour in some hot water, and let it brew to get a perfect cup of coffee that is rich in flavor and super simple to make. As someone who is sensitive with caffeine due to my chronic illness, I am so happy to say that Nguyen's coffee worked really well with me and tastes delicious. So I am so glad that I found an organic coffee to drink that works well with me and is also super delicious. If you are interested in getting yourself some delicious coffee from Nguyen to try out for yourself, just click the link in my bio to check out their website and be sure to use my coupon code STORIES10 to get 10% off your first order. So thank you so much to Nguyen Coffee Supply for sponsoring this video. I feel like this is the most on-brand sponsorship I can get for my channel, Stories for Coffee. I feel like this is the most perfect match in the world and I am so happy that we were able to work together. And in case you were wondering, I am drinking their Loyalty blend and I am having it iced because I talk for a very long time while filming and your coffee can't get cold if you already made it cold beforehand, so big tip there. So let's start talking about some of the books that I recently read and would highly recommend to you all. The first book that I read on audiobook, which was absolutely phenomenal, was The Vanishing Half by Britt Bennett. The Vanishing Half is a historical fiction following twin sisters who decide to run away from home at the age of 16, and from there onwards they live 2 very different lives. One has a black daughter and lives in the town that she tried to escape, and the other decides to pass as white and live a very different life from her twin sister and kind of erase her past to live a very different experience than her twin. The Vanishing Half is such a wonderful novel if you are looking for a literary historical fiction that is just so beautifully and wonderfully written. It is also amazing if you are looking for a character study because not only do we follow these twin sisters, but we also follow their daughters and how their experiences are completely different from one another because one passes as a white woman and one is a black woman. This is my first Britt Bennett book, but I feel like she's going to become an auto-buy author for me because this is such a character-driven story that I greatly enjoyed. It talks about privilege, it talks about racism, it talks about reconnecting with family members. I just thought it was so well done, so well written, so completely engaging at all times, and I just really enjoyed reading about the daughters' experiences because they were so vastly different. And I feel like everyone in the world has read it already. I'm very late to the party. It was definitely discussed widely in 2020, so I feel like I might be a broken record in recommending this novel to you, but I do want to let you know that I read it, greatly enjoyed it, and would highly recommend it if you have not read it as well and you're late to the party like I was. Another book that I greatly enjoyed and also read on audiobook is Hood Feminism by Mikki Kendall. This is a nonfiction which is narrated by Mikki herself. So I'm going to read you a quote from the synopsis of Hood Feminism because whenever I try and talk about it, I feel like this sentence sums up the whole thesis of this nonfiction for you. So it says, mainstream feminists rarely talk about meeting basic needs as a feminist issue, argues Mikki Kendall, but food insecurity, access to quality education, safe neighborhoods, a living wage, and medical care are all feminist issues. So Mikki Kendall takes all these different issues that we wouldn't really think is a feminist issue, and she argues that they all inherently are a feminist issue. And if one were to claim they are a feminist, they should not only care about empowering women, but also care about living wages, safe neighborhoods, access to medical care, etc., etc. And I feel like if one were to want to learn more about feminist issues, I would highly recommend Hood Feminism because it's so important and talks about so many different issues. I felt like I was listening to a TED Talk while listening to the audiobook. So if you're looking for a nonfiction about intersectionality, about feminism, and also by a Black author, I would highly recommend this one because it was super good. Iced coffee is just like so superior. Argue in the comments. Let's argue about that. Iced coffee or hot coffee? I'm gonna go for iced coffee. Another thing that I read was Shine Your Icy Crown by Amanda Lovelace. This is very bright right now. I feel like you can't see the cover, so I'm just gonna put it down. This is a poetry collection loosely based off of the tale of Frozen in terms of the relationship between Anna and Elsa, so it's very much a poetry collection centered around the relationship between two sisters, and this is probably my favorite poetry collection by Amanda Lovelace so far. I just felt so connected to it, even though I don't have a sister and I don't know what that relationship is like. I just still felt so moved by all the poetry in it, and it was just so full of universal truths. And I put in my review that I would have loved to highlight my favorite passages, but then the whole book would be neon. The poetry collection was just so relatable, and I just connected to it so well, and that's one of my favorite things. Whenever I read a collection and every time I read a poem, I'm like, yes, exactly, yes. That's how I felt reading the whole entire thing, so I had to tell you about that one. And the next thing that I read is actually a reread, but I just wanted to chat about it for a bit, and I reread Mindhunter by John E. Douglas completely on a whim because someone kindly gifted me a copy of Mindhunter off of my book wish list. And once it came into the mail, I was flipping through the book and realized that I didn't remember a lot of the cases that were discussed in Mindhunter, and I wanted to reread it just to refresh myself on the cases that Johnny Douglas spoke about. And while rereading the book, I annotated a lot and had a conversation with the text, which I found to be really helpful in not only remembering the work, but just analyzing it on a deeper level. If you do not know what Mindhunter is about, John E. Douglas is one of the men who helped create the behavioral science unit, and he is one of the men who went around America interviewing different serial killers to gain an insight into how they became a serial killer. And it eventually helped the behavioral science unit create a system to help categorize these different killers in hopes of preventing these types of crimes from happening in the future. So this nonfiction chronicles John E. Douglas's career in the FBI, and it discusses the different cases that he worked on and how those cases helped him as a behavioral science unit member to help categorize and analyze these different killers. It's very interesting, it's very dark because Johnny Douglas doesn't hold back from describing the crimes and the different motives that these killers had, but I just found it deeply fascinating. If you are very much interested in true crime, I feel like this would be a really good nonfiction to pick up, especially because this deals with a part of the FBI that deals specifically with sequence killers or serial killers. And the last thing that I read was another nonfiction, and it is a memoir, and it is Crying in H-Mart by Michelle Zauner. She is a part of the band Japanese Breakfast, which I did not know about until I read the memoir, and I was like towards the end, and she spoke about her band, and I'm like, wait, she's part of that band. I just knew that it was a memoir about Michelle's life as a Korean American woman and her relationship with her mother, and how they are very different in terms of personalities, and how their relationship is a bit rocky, and that relationship drastically changes when her mother is diagnosed with cancer. So Michelle chronicles her life as a Korean American as she is growing up in America, trying to reconnect with her Korean culture, and she feels very stuck between both cultures because she doesn't feel inherently American enough, but she doesn't feel inherently Korean enough, which as a daughter of an immigrant, I can feel greatly as well, because I feel like that's a universal experience when you are stuck between two different cultures and you don't feel like you're enough of both. And I found myself highlighting so many of those passages about culture and reconnecting with it so much, because Michelle doesn't feel like she's Korean enough because she doesn't really know the language as well as her mother did, who was fluent in it. And I feel that so hard because I don't feel smart enough to speak in Spanish, and Michelle deals with those issues as well because she doesn't know Korean as well as her mother, and she wants to. And I feel like that was such a relatable experience that I just felt so deeply. And this also greatly explores the relationship between her and her mother, and how they have these highs and lows in their relationship, and how Michelle had to basically watch her mother wither away because of her cancer. So it's a very well-rounded memoir. I thought it was so fantastic because it explores culture, it explores Michelle's career and how she's trying to find herself as a person, while also highlighting her relationship with her mother. It's a very emotional read and does discuss the darker aspects of seeing someone you love with cancer. So if you feel like that topic hits a little bit too close to home and you don't think this is the right time to pick up this memoir, I completely understand. So I do want to let you know that it does deal a lot with the discussion of cancer, but it also just talks about the different aspects of Michelle's life. And I just loved the insight that she gave to us, and I loved how vulnerable she was in this memoir. She didn't hold back with her feelings, and I just greatly enjoyed it. It's a memoir that will definitely stick with me for a while because it left such a big impact on me. So those are the 5 books that I recently read and would highly recommend to you all. I feel like we have a mixture of everything in this episode. We have a literary historical fiction if you're interested in that. We have a true crime nonfiction. We have a poetry collection, or a very heartfelt memoir. I feel like there's definitely something for everyone in this Books and Brews. So let me know if you have read any of these books from my list, or let me know if you're interested in any of these books from my list. And if you have not seen my previous Books and Brews episode, I will be sure to link my first one down below so you can see what other books that I have read recently and would highly recommend. Remember to check out Nguyen's coffee supply down below and be sure to use my coupon if you want to try out their coffee for yourself. And I hope you all have a wonderful day. If you have made it this far in the video, comment down a coffee emoji, because last time I told people to comment a leaf emoji and someone was like, this is a Books and Brews episode, why don't you tell them to comment a coffee emoji down below? I did not think of that before, but now I'm thinking of it now. So if you have made it this far, comment a coffee emoji down below so we can see who sticks around for the entirety of this video. Thank you so much if you do, and thank you so much if you are subscribed to my channel. I appreciate you all and all the support that you have to give, and I hope you all have a wonderful day. Bye!